In the heart of the Lumara forest, every living thing carried its own light. The foxes glowed silver, the toads lit up gold, and the fireflies, oh, the fireflies, they painted the whole sky with wonder. Every firefly, that is, except for one. Pip had never glowed. Not once. Not ever. At the very heart of the forest lived Lumara, the oldest creature who had ever drawn breath. On her ancient shell, she carried the great lantern, a flame that had burned for 10,000 years. As long as this light burns, she told Pip in a voice like distant thunder, every creature in this forest is safe and glowing. Pip listened with eyes as wide as the whole night sky. But not every creature in the forest wished to share in the light. High in the dead branches above, Bex watched, and coveted, and waited. He had stolen the glow of many small things and kept them cold and dark around his neck like trophies. Tonight, he had decided, the great lantern would be his. It happened in a single wing beat. One moment the forest blazed with 10,000 years of warmth. The next, nothing. The darkness was not merely the absence of light. It was heavy. It was cold. And somewhere in the black, Pip heard old Lumara breathe the saddest sound a living thing could make. Lumara's voice was slow and low and full of 10,000 years of knowing. The lantern can only be relit by a firefly who gives their light without fear, she said. Every other firefly had vanished into the dark. But Pip stepped forward, tiny, unglowing, trembling, and said, I'll go. Lumara pressed one great ancient toe gently to Pip's heart. The light, she whispered, was always there. The forest without light was like swimming inside a closed eye. Every root was an ambush. Every shadow was deeper than the last. Then, just before the bog swallowed a very small firefly whole, a voice said, Ooh, I wouldn't go that way. Bogg's terrible for your complexion. Bogg the toad beamed his enormous golden grin, his toe pads glowing just enough to see by. I am an official guide, he announced. Where are we going? Maren the silver fox moved through darkness like light through water, as though the dark itself stepped aside for her. She was not surprised to see them. The crystal spring is close, she said, her violet eyes calm as still water. But Bex is watching the forest road. She tilted her great silver head toward a hidden gap between two roots. He is not watching below. Bex landed between Pip and the spring like a wall of cold night. His necklace of stolen dark lanterns rattled against his chest. A firefly who cannot glow, he sneered, his voice like gravel grinding, thinks it can relight the world? Bogg scrambled behind a root. Maren was pushed back by the force of dark wings. And tiny Pip stood alone, staring up at something much, much bigger. Something deep inside Pip, something that had been waiting, quiet and patient as old Lumara herself, finally woke up. Not for himself. For all of them. For every frightened creature sitting in the dark. The light did not flicker. It did not hesitate. It erupted. And for the first time in his entire life, Pip blazed. One by one, the stolen lanterns cracked open and rose into the night like tiny warm moons going home. Bex stood in the light he had always feared and hated, and in it, he looked smaller than Pip had ever imagined him. Not monstrous. Just alone. Pip lowered their glow not in defeat, but in the only gesture that had any power left, kindness. The spring rang like a bell made of forever. Gold light poured down through roots older than memory, through the veins of the forest, all the way to the jade vessel on Lumara's ancient shell. The great lantern caught. And breathed. And blazed. And the whole forest, every moss and mushroom and sleeping flower, opened its eyes and came home. Morning came to the Lumara forest like a long exhale. Every creature gathered, every glow, every glimmer, every spark. And at the edge of the celebration, where the bravest and most uncertain thing Pip ever did was simply to say, "There's room here for you too," Bex sat still. And quiet. And for the first time in a long and lonely life, a single feather on his chest glowed. Because the truth the forest had always known, and Pip had finally taught the rest of the world, was this: every light matters. Especially the ones that took the longest to find.